Wagner alongside Jim Hall live from Columbia Park. And 1990 Columbia Cup is over. And what a race it was as Miss Budweiser wins the 1990 edition, Jim.
The Miss Budweiser by no means had it easy today. It nearly flipped in one of the preliminary heats. It also had to overcome some major damage the boat sustained, but it came back in the final, overcame some problems there, getting washed down. The Circus wasn't able to make the final starting, and a couple of penalty laps, so the final was kind of an anticlimactic, but don't say that to the Bud people. They're very excited.
What an exciting day here. The 1990 Columbia Cup is over. Most of the teams now packing up the gear. A lot of the boats are leaving the pits, but we're just beginning. In the next half an hour, highlights of all the heats, plus post-race comments. Coming up next, heats 1A and 1B. Stay tuned. Oh my goodness, what a tough Heat 1A today. 3 of the top 4 qualifiers in the race pitted against each other, including the race's top qualifier, the Circus. If we take a look at the lineup, Mr. Pringles qualified 4th for the race. He was also in there, and the Winston Eagle qualified 3rd for this race, and what a start it was. We take a look at the video from that. At the start, Winston Eagle came up on the inside. The Pringles was on the outside with a Circus in between.
Chip Hanauer has more horsepower than any boat here this week. Of course, it was the top qualifier, and Chip beat everybody to the first corner and pretty much can't finish this way the rest of the way, Dana.
Really an easy heat for him, surprisingly, in such tough company. But you're right, the Circus got the lead on the first lap and pretty much just ran away with it. Pringles finished second, with the Winston Eagle finishing 3rd.
Well, the horizontal wing, we might mention, came loose off the Winston Eagle, and Jim KROPFELD did not know when that happened. A competitive competition lap record for the Circus as it wins Heat 1A.
With a first lap, 146.28 miles per hour. There he is, Chip Hanauer, coming by the official barge.
Chip, a lot of anticipation for Heat 1A with the 150-mile-an-hour boat. How did it feel out there? 146 right off the bat.
Yeah, it ran real well. It didn't run well at low speed. I had to go to the outside. I had a compressor stall, and when I tried to accelerate from low speed, the engine wouldn't run, so I had to bail out and go outside, keep the engine RPM up.
I noticed a couple times you got a little bouncy coming into the first turn.
Yeah, the first turn is real rough, as it is traditionally here. So the boat handles well, and it's still rough, but it handles well, and hopefully it'll handle better than the other guys.
Off to a good start.
Yeah, we do the tough heat, and it's nice to come out of it with a win.
Okay, congratulations.
Thanks, Jim.
Chip Hanauer, let's go over to Dana with George Woods Jr.
Jim, I'm here with the driver of the Mr. Pringles, George Woods Jr. George, you gave Chip a run for his money, but he beat you to the first turn, and pretty much that was it.
Yeah, I tell you, he got out in front there, and the Circus, it runs fast. They're the guys to beat today. And we were out there as the preliminary heat. We got 300 points. We got another heat before we can even get in the final. So we're going to try to save our equipment and then maybe see if we can't pick up a little more speed and go fast in the final.
George, good luck in heat number 2. Let's send it over now to Jim in the Winston Eagle camp.
Jim KROPFELD, you had lane number 1, but going into the first turn, didn't have the full power at the start.
Well, I had everything, but when you're in lane 1 to get it, you have to go up in there early, and that's what I had to do. I was about 5 seconds early, so I had to idle up to the line more or less. By the time I got rolling good, I was all the way to the first turn, and by then the guys were around me.
What happened to the wing?
Beats me.
No idea.
Broke, I guess. I can't see the wing from where I am, so I suppose it broke. I saw it laying in the water.
Okay. Jim KROPFELD, driver of the Winston Eagle. Let's go over to Dana Wagner.
Jim, last year's winner, Mitch Evans in the Cooper's Express, got stuck in a pretty tough heat. Tell you what, you finished 5th, and right off the bat, you're behind.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the program, We got to finish these heats. We're going to make a few changes here, hopefully get a little better draw, and we'll go out and run a little harder for the next heat.
Well, with all the tough boats in Heat 1A, the Miss Budweiser had its way in Heat 1B. Things went pretty much to form in that heat as we take a look at the rundown there.
1990 Columbia Cup featured Chip Hanauer going after his second 400-point heat of the day, and he did. He won it going away. The real good race was for second and third.
It was a pretty easy heat for him. As you can see, it was Circus pitted against the Holstein Miss Mazda piston-powered boat, Cooper's Express last year's winner, the Oboyo Birdo, and Jackpot Food Mart, which did not actually start this race, so it was a four-boat race. Circus got the easy heat this time, and it started on the outside with Miss Mazda on the inside, Oberto sandwiched in between.
Chip Hanauer always likes to drive in lane one, but he talked about that rough water, and plus he didn't have the speedier boats with him, so he took the outside. He cruised into turn number one, withstood that rough water in turn number one, and just set off to win this race in easy fashion.
As he comes out of turn number one, you can see him right there passing the Oberto on the inside. Of course, Circus just had more horses than the Oberto today, and he took the checkered flag to win Heat 2A pretty easy.
Third place and second place, still to Miss Madison. Here comes the fifth lap, and the checkered flag will be going out for the Circus. Here comes the checkered flag. The Circus, the fifth lap, has a time of 119. Oh, the Mazda just about
Mazda hooked, though, on the final turn, as you can see right there. Very violent, very fortunate that he stayed right side up. Gave up second place to the turbine-powered Oberto, and the Mazda finished third.
I'm here with the winner of Heat 2A, Chip Hanauer, the Circus, quite a bit easier than your last heat.
Well, it was the luck of the draw. The first heat, we got all the tough guys, and this time, Budweiser's got all the tough guys, so this was nice to be able to take it a little bit easier.
How's the boat running, and how's it going to do in the final?
Well, I wish I could tell you how it's going to do in the final. Then I wouldn't have to go out there and see, but both running good. It's very, very rough in corner one. Something to do with the current taking the weight and holding there. They don't dissipate. They just keep piling up there. By the second, third lap, it's just atrocious.
Chip, thanks very much. We'll see you in the final. The real story of Heat 2A was a battle for second and third. Let's send it over to Jim Hall now in the Miss Mazda camp.
Mike Hansen, driver of the Miss Mazda, what happened coming out of that final turn?
It's awful rough out there right now. The turn's got some great big rollers in it. There's really not a real good lane to run in, and it just hooked the left sponson into a hole, and back end came around on me to kind of a half 360, and just got away from it. By the time I get the thing going again, Mark Tate and the Oberto were already gone.
This course is known for its smooth conditions, but not the case today.
They destroyed the course. When they went from a 2.5 down to a 2-mile course, and it's my own personal opinion, I think they made it more dangerous than it was as the 2.5-mile course. It doesn't give the river enough time in between boat going by for the water to dissipate. So right now the rollers are just kind of staying in the turn. They're not going there nowhere. They're just there during the whole heat, and it's awful dangerous. So it's good.
Well, you're in the final.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike Hansen, let's go over to Dana Wagner in the Oberto camp.
I'm here with rookie driver Mark Tate of the Oboyo Birdo. Well, I'll tell you what, the Allison-powered engines over there gave your turbine all it could handle.
They sure did. The Mazda Madison people have done a tremendous job with that program, and they're running extremely fast. This is really only our third race of the turbine program, and we're still learning, and hopefully we can find a little more speed.
Boy, Heat 2A may have been a cakewalk for the Circus, but Heat 2B was anything but that. Three of the top four qualifiers pitted against each other. The Miss Bud was in that heat, along with the Mr. Pringles, the Winston Eagle, and the Thor Racing. This race almost spelled tragedy for the Bud. At the start, the Bud is in lane 2, the Winston right next to him in lane 3, and the Pringles is on the outside in lane 4.
And as you see, as these boats come into that treacherous turn number 1, the Bud, you actually wait here and see as they get right into the corner, you'll see the Budweiser just fly through the spray right there, nearly goes over.
It sure did. I'll tell you what, he caught a roller there, and he almost went over. This is the closest I've ever seen a boat to flipping without actually flipping. He came down on his right side and did extensive damage to the back part of the boat and the horizontal wing, and it had to be actually duct taped together for the final today. Then the race came down to the Winston Eagle and the Pringles, and the Pringles showed that it was the class of this race.
George Woods Jr. has been saying all week that this boat has the power, and this guy is a real solid driver. He's real coy out there, and actually he set a competition heat record, breaking Chip Hanauer's Chip set in Heat 1A, and George Woods had the Pringles looking as good as any boat out there today.
Well, the Winston Eagle also blew an engine this morning during some testing, and it seemed to reduce the speed of that boat, and it had trouble keeping up with the Pringles today.
And that's definitely for sure, Dana, because you see the Pringles coming around and taking the checkered flag, winner of Heat 2B.
lap of the day for Mr. Pringles.
I'm here with Tom Dees, the driver driver of the Miss Budweiser. Pretty scary there down in turn one. What happened?
Well, it just got real tight down there, and it was racing. Hit a roller, and a skid fin unhooked itself, and then it glided over into Jimmy and got up in his tail and went over the top of him, I guess, and the Pringles too.
Well, how's it look for the final? Boat going to be ready?
Oh, they'll get it ready. You can bet your bottom dollar on that.
It's pretty scary there down in turn one all day.
It's got a lot of rollers down there, and it's just nasty. You know, the lake, the river, I've never seen the rollers acting the way they've been acting. I knew it was going to be rough down there, and it just one of those things, racing incident.
Okay, Tom, thanks very much. We'll now send it over to Jim Hall with the winner of Heat 2B.
With the winner of Heat 2B, George Woods Jr., congratulations, outdoing those other turbines.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Like I've been saying, it just presents Mr. Pringles race team has been picking up a little bit all the time that we've been out here, and it's getting better and better. You know, it's a long ways to go into the final heat yet, and before the fat lady sings per se, but at least, you know, we're gaining on it.
Everybody's talking about how rough the water conditions are, particularly in turn one.
Oh yeah, it's nasty out there, and I'll tell you, I've been here 4 times now, and I think it's about as rough as I've ever seen it.
Pretty exciting racing all day, and that just set up a fantastic final. All the boats were running. They had 7 in the final, including the provisional one. And when we come back here on Columbia Cup 1990, we'll show you the final heat plus the post-race comments. Stay tuned. The final was supposed to start at 4:10 today, but it was 30 minutes late because of a malfunction in the clock, and it gave the crowd, I think, time to mull over what they were about to see and what a final it was going to be today.
Well, with the Circus, the Budweiser, the Winston, the Pringles, all these boats running so well for most of the day, for most of the week, for most of the year, you know, everybody talked all year it's been a Budweiser Circus heat, but the way the Pringles performed and the Winston Eagle coming into today, everybody got a little bit more excited.
It was a 4-boat race indeed
really
today among those 4 top turbines this afternoon. The water conditions a little bit rough out here, a little windy in the morning. The wind picked up during the day, and they really mucked up the water, especially in turn number 1, which made it dangerous.
Turn number 1 was a big problem, and we've heard throughout the show already a lot of the drivers complaining. Actually, the reason they went from a 2.5 to a 2-mile course was for safety, but today you're hearing them complaining that the 2-mile course is dangerous because of the conditions into the corners with the rollers.
And certainly we heard Mike Hansen with the whole set in his Mazda talk about that. Let's check now the rundown here for the final heat, which it ran at 4:40 this afternoon. The Circus came in winning both of its prior heats, 800 points. Mr. Pringles not far behind, a first and a second coming in with 700 points, followed by the Miss Budweiser, the Oh Boy Alberta, the Winston Eagle, the whole set Miss Mazda, and now they have a 7-starter, a provisional starter. Cooper's Express had to start 15 seconds behind the field, but after that, it could race for the checkered flag. And here, at the start, the Bud was on the outside, the Winston had the middle and the lead, and the Circus had engine problems and went dead.
Well, you remember last year, Dana, Chip Hanauer in a qualification test run on Sunday morning nearly blew the boat over after a broken rudder. He had to go home, didn't get to race at all last year. He'd run so well in the first 2 heats today, and everything looked right for him to get a victory today, but he wasn't able to answer the bell.
Well, the Winston Eagle actually led this race for a lap and a half before the Bud finally passed it on the backstretch of lap number 2. This is now turn number 1 of lap number 2. The Bud is on the outside of the Winston Eagle, and here is where the Bud makes its mark.
You remember all that work that had to go in to repair the right side of the boat. Crew Chief Ron Brown figured that the Budweiser was running at about 90% of its peak, and 90% seemed to be enough.
And there it goes. You can see it passing the Winston Eagle on the outside, and that's all it took. After that, it was the Bud's race to win, and when it did, it got a big enough lead over the Winston Eagle that it was able just to cruise in with a checkered flag. The Winston and the Alberta were actually penalized the lap, so they finished back in the pack. Last year's winner, the Cooper's Express, finished 3rd. The Miss Mazda finished 2nd in this race, with Tommy Deeb and the Miss Budweiser taking the checkered flag for Tommy's 3rd win on the Columbia Cup, his 14th career win. Miss Budweiser wins again the 1990 Columbia Cup.
We'll be able to get the boat back into the pit area before any further damage is done.
Oh, that's good. We had it. Can't count us out, right? Oh, way to go. Oh, man, I'll tell you. Well, you know, Budweiser crew and driver Tommy, they don't ever give up. And to repair that boat like they did and get it out there and take a victory, only the good Lord and Tommy could have done that. No, hold it. Move out. Clear the dock. Let him off first try.
Tommy, sure that the Bud crew wasn't going to send me out there with anything that couldn't, you know, be competitive and have a chance of winning, and they did a fantastic job of repairing the boat in between heats. And I'm a boat builder myself, so I know structure. I know it was plenty strong enough.
It looked like that wing was going to come off.
Well, I was babying it the last couple of laps because Lauren told me that the wing was wiggling around, and you can see the supports were broken back on the right rear corner. So just glad that it lasted long enough to give us another victory.
Well, this course is turning into a hard luck course for you. Last year and now this year, you were running so well going into the final, too.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but you just have to accept the good with the bad.
This is the time when all the cliches come out, that's boat racing stuff.
Everybody wants a real snappy answer, but there's no snappy answer.
So the final ended up being kind of anticlimactic. The Miss Budweiser winning today, damage and all, in actually dramatic fashion for the Miss Budweiser, but two of the top boats didn't make the call. Jim Hall, some final impressions from you.
Well, Bernie Little doesn't have the best. He spends the most money. He doesn't have the best for no reason at all, and it showed today. His crew is the best. They repaired that boat after all that damage. It went out. Tom Deeth ran a great race, and, you know, he was fortunate. Some other boats had some problems, but got to take your hat off to the Budweiser crew. Another victory here on the 25th anniversary Columbia Cup.
Miss Budweiser has now won 4 of the 6 races on the circuit this year. The Circus winning the other 2. Miss Budweiser now has a 1,000-point lead over the Circus in the battle for High Point. Well, that'll do it for the 1990 recap show down here from Columbia Park, the Neil F. Lamson Pits. Thanks to everybody in the crew. Thanks to all the hydro drivers. And thanks to everybody down at the Water Follies office. Everybody gave us a lot of cooperation this week, and it really made our job very easy. For Jim Hall, this is Dana Wagner. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next year. So long.
Good night.